let's have a look at Furnco, okay? Now, I think for this one, I'm going to do something different for Furnco versus GSI. For Furnco, I'm going to build the outline, okay? I want to build up the outline. We'll talk ranking integration, but I want to walk through the whole case and build the outline. And then we'll go through and talk about how to address the issues, and I'm going to use a nice sample response, okay? So Furnco does take a little bit longer than GSI. Obviously, ask me questions along the way. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate. We'll take a break after Furnco, and then we'll do GSI, and that takes a little less time because I'm not going to build up the whole outline. We do this for some cases, other cases we don't do it. It really is just to mix it up a little bit. Okay, so the outline is going to come up on the right side of the screen. In real life, you guys will be doing the outline either on paper or on the computer. Not every point I put down, you guys have to have exactly the same point, but there's certain important things I want to make sure that you guys clued into. So I'll be trying to emphasize certain things. Okay? Stop me again if you have any questions or comments as I'm going through it. All right. I start off, the first thing I see is I see March 16, I see a date. I always notice dates. You don't know when dates are going to be important. So I keep track of dates in every case, whether it's comp or whether it's a multi. I always notice my role. These are bread and butter things. These are very basic. And here it is a bit of an unusual role. You're hired as a controller, and you're the first controller they've ever had. They've always had bookkeepers, now you're the first controller. I typically notice the nature of the business. You'll notice, by the way, I'm not writing it down. It's perfectly fine if you want to write these down. Sometimes I do, sometimes I just highlight them. And the company is owned and managed by one individual. Definitely notice the structure of the entity. That's important. I want to know if it's a private company, a public company, closely held, widely held, joint venture, incorporated, partnership, not incorporated. I want to know what the structure is. So everything in that first paragraph, those typical points come up all the time, and everything I'm highlighting, I have a reason why I'm highlighting it. Okay, I look at the second paragraph, and I know it looks like I'm highlighting most of it, but the truth is it's important. We're talking about selling shares. He's selling 28% of the shares. And he tells me the investors, some of them are going to sit on the board of directors. Fine. I didn't write anything down. I don't see a required. But by the way, the word that's cut off on the page, that says really extraneous, okay, EXTR, short form. That just means I'm noting some general points that I think are important. And then we have our required. I want your advice on the accounting and reporting and business implications of selling shares. So my first question to you is, how many requireds is that? That's my first question. First sentence, third paragraph. How many requireds do I have to deal with? Okay. I have some people saying 2, most people saying 2, but I also have some people 3. All right. Well, I think it's 2 requireds. Accounting and reporting is really one required. Okay, that is not a separate required. We talk about financial reporting. That's the name of the competency. We say accounting and reporting. And business implications, that's the second required. So when I write this down, look how I wrote it down on the right side of the slide. I write down number 1 and number 2. It is very important you don't mix requireds, don't group requireds. They're being very nice in these cases nowadays. They're being very, very directed. So however they say it, that's how I'm writing it down. That's how I'm going to deal with it. Now, what about the last sentence? The last sentence is, don't spend time discussing the tax impact of selling shares as my tax advisor dealt with this. Okay, my question is, do you challenge that or do you accept it? Okay, I agree. Okay, a bunch of you are saying accept. Right, I would agree. Okay, there's no reason to challenge something unless they're using vague language, I believe. They're not using language like that. They're basically saying, don't do X. Okay, just accept it, fine. All right. I also put down, by the way, I put down that point about the fact that some people are sitting on the board. Whenever I see, my rationale for that is whenever I see anything to do with the board of directors, and I was thinking governance, and the fact they told me that some people in this new, when they sell the 28%, that some of these people are going to be sitting on the board, that to me, I guess, it ties in with the required about business implications. Okay? All right. Oh, gosh, you know what? Some of you are saying, okay, one sec. Some of you are saying, okay, hold on one sec. My case not saying the point. Yeah. Okay, guys, you know what? I think what we did is, we probably didn't remove it from this. Okay, we made a link change. We made a link change where we probably removed that sentence. So just kind of ignore that sentence. I still have it, I think, in the whatchamacallit, in the case. So yeah, okay, you probably don't even have that point. Okay, a bunch of you are saying you don't have that point. That's fine. Okay, if you see any other changes, obviously tell me, but I don't think you will. Okay. I've got to run now. Look at the next paragraph. It looks like we have something discontinued here. He's very excited. They're making a major change, and they're going to sell furniture over the internet. Okay. So how are they going to do this? Then he says, if we decide to sell over the internet, we'll work through an intermediary called IMI. He's impressed with them, and they have experience in the clothing industry, and they say they could increase sales by $1 million. Okay. Now, I'm going to put all this together. Just give me one sec. Let me look at the next paragraph. Here comes a required. I would appreciate any advice you have with regard to the factors I should consider making a final decision with regard to selling over the internet. And I would also like you to determine whether the claim made by IMI, okay, fine, has merit. Okay. People, a number of important things. Number one, does everybody agree we actually have 3 required here? Number one, should they sell over the internet? That is a required. Number 2, if they sell over the internet, should they work with IMI? That's a second required. And number 3, IMI says, I'm going to increase your sale, I'm going to increase your profits by $1 million. Is that correct? Is that true? So I think there's 3 required here. I don't want to combine them. Notice I wrote A and B separately for selling over the internet or working with IMI. Does anybody not understand that, or does anyone have any questions on that, that they thought those were the same requires? Is everybody good with that? Some people I've seen in this case, they combine the 2 of them. It's not the greatest strategy. You still could do okay at the end of the day, depending on your analysis, but it's much riskier. Okay, look how it's written. So one person is saying that they kind of did that, but look how it's written. Okay, we are considering selling furniture. I'm going to show you this again afterwards, but I might as well look at it now. It's right here. We're considering selling furniture over the internet. That's a decision. No, that's a decision. We're considering selling furniture over the internet. Well, I don't know. I might have to help them. And then if we decide to sell over the internet, we're going to work through IMI, or we're seriously considering working through IMI. People, 2 separate requirements. Okay? It's just very, I'll tell you the problem. Like someone just said to me in another session, they were saying, like, am I allowed to combine requires? It's not a question of not allowed. The problem is when you combine requireds, you end up like, I don't know, just answering in a way that it's hard to get confidence in both because there may be two separate assessment opportunities. I don't know. And the problem is when you start combining these things, yeah, you just don't deal enough separately with these. So you may have points going in one direction only, and the other one gets ignored. And that hurts you in the assessment opportunity. That's the problem. So it's not like you have to, but you increase your chances so much more by not combining things in the requireds. And for sure, the last one is separate. $1 million, okay, fine, that totally obviously is separate. Okay, now, all right, so I have a question here. Why have you taken IMI as a separate required? Because it's asked separately. I'm taking it as a separate required because it's a separate decision. Are you telling me I have to sell? Are you telling me if I sell over the internet, I have to use IMI? That's not what it says. It says if we decide to sell over the internet, I could use an intermediary, IMI. So why is that? Why? I don't understand why that's not one decision. That's two decisions. Number one, do you want to sell over the internet, period, or a question mark? Yes or no? Number two, if you sell over the internet, do you want to work with IMI? Yes or no? Or to put it another way, I can sell over the internet and not work with IMI. So if you link the two of them, I don't know, you're changing what the required is saying. That's the reason. I don't want you to do that. It's just not right the way that they're asking it. And then, okay, the other one stands out. I would also like you to determine, right over here, I would also like you to determine whether the claim made by IMI has merit. Fine. Okay. So basically, I look at this first page, how many requireds do I have? I got 5. I got 5 requireds. At the top, I got number 1, number 2 in Roman numerals. Then I have the internet, IMI, and then I have the validation of the claim. I have 5 requireds. That's quite normal. No one should be surprised with this. How many assessment opportunities are you expecting on a multi? Approximately. Yeah. Sabina's saying 6 to 8. That's about right. So no one should be surprised with 5 requireds that would lead to 6 to 8 assessment opportunities. I'd be surprised with 2 or 3. Now, I also wrote down experience in clothing. Why did I write that down? What am I thinking? I'm thinking that's not good. They're in furniture. That's not a big plus. As Jonathan is saying, right, no experience in the industry. I'm writing that down, not thinking to myself, that's kind of a negative point. I don't know if he realizes that's a negative point. I'm very happy that he's telling me he's impressed. Okay, what's he impressed about? They're in the clothing industry. That's the reason I'm writing it down, people. I just want to remember it, and it ties in with IMI. Okay, now, people, what I do, you don't have to follow this approach, but we do this for every multi. We have a bit of a different approach in the comp. But for the multis, I take my requireds, I leave myself space, as you guys see in front of you, and I plan on filling them in as I read the rest of the case. Now, there's no rule you're going to get all the requireds on the first page. Whatever I get, I get. I write them down and leave myself space. If they want to give me a required in the, one of the appendices, fine, they'll give me a required there, I'll put it down there. But that's how I do, that's how I set up every single one of my multis. Okay? Any questions? All right, I flip the page. That whole first paragraph I end up highlighting. The whole thing is talking about the board. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but anybody want to tell me a point that they thought of in that first paragraph, or did you notice anything? Again, I'm asking an open-ended question. So I don't know if, you know what I mean, when you're going to say is what I'm looking for, but the truth is, I'm just asking open-ended. Did you notice anything? Do you want me to write down anything or clue into anything? Oh, okay, so one sec. So I got, okay, wait, I got a whole bunch. Okay, I got a whole bunch here. Just 1 second. I'll try and get into everything here. Okay. Good business acumen. So a number of you said that. I would agree. That was the key point that I thought of. You've got a lawyer, you've got an executive for a major bank, and you got a CPA. That is saying to me we have sophisticated people on the board. That's what I wrote down. Okay. Now, someone said, okay, one sec. So someone said they'll have 6 board seats. Right. Okay, good. Now, 1 second. Loss of control? No, I don't think it's loss of control. Be careful. You're only giving up 28% of the business. Definitely not loss of control. But some of you are saying interference, business decisions. Okay, that's a negative way of looking at it. But, you know, we're not going to have the same autonomy. I think that's really the key point. But we do have some good professional people. We have some good professional people that are going to be in the composition of the board. That's what I'm kind of noticing. Okay, already saying very good. Higgins will lose some authority. Very good. Okay, and the board, a lot of you are saying the board's going to be carrying good people. Okay, good. Board of directors, okay, fine. How many professionals are good? 6 people. Okay, not uneven on the board. Okay, good. All right, keep going. Then they tell me, I know it looks like I'm highlighting everything because I am, but it's all important stuff. They're telling me now what the formula is. 28% times 3 times net income. Prepared in accordance with GAAP. ASPE. He's still retaining control. Now, people, I wrote that down. I didn't know where to put it. I put it under the implications of selling. I don't think it has anything to do with the internet. I put it down 28% times 3 times the income. This is trying to tell me it's a good deal. It's going to result in the book price, whatever. Again, I just kind of highlighted it. He feels it's really good, and then gives me a tax rate. Okay. So I put down the tax rate, whatever, that's about it. Now, people, why do I have that last paragraph? Bit of a harder point. Why are they telling me that one plant is appraised at a value of $1,050,000 and originally purchased for much lower? What do I do with this one? Okay, so I have a few things here. Someone is saying, okay, a discontinued operation. I don't think it has anything to do with the discontinued operation. I'm not sure why that would have anything to do. Someone is saying you need to add to the revaluation. What revaluation? I don't have enough information here. I don't know if I'm doing a whole valuation. So Jonathan's also saying valuation issue. You guys are close, but I don't think anyone's really getting it. You guys are close, but not, okay, that's not bad. Someone is saying, okay, Sandeep is saying that's good. To compare with fair market value, not with book value. Okay, fine. Chris is saying the same thing. Okay, need to reassess the net book value. Okay, fine. All right, goodwill. Don't think I have enough information for goodwill. Need to reassess the net book value. I don't know about that. Not sure I need to reassess the net book value. Okay, capital gain or loss, but 1 second here. I don't even know. We don't have a tax required, so I'm not sure. I mean, you're right about a capital gain or loss, but be careful here. What tax required? I haven't seen a tax required here. I have 5 required, none of them were taxed. People, I'll tell you what I thought. I'm surprised no one is saying or thinking this. I thought this is telling me we have a big asset on the books. Okay, all right, Paul, good. We have an asset on the book that is way under the book value, is way under the fair market value. I just read a formula on the paragraph above it where the guy is impressed that it's going to be twice as high as 28% of the book value. Then he tells me the book value is way below the fair market value because we have this plant that has been assessed way above the book value. So, people, my whole point, you see, you don't have to write down what I wrote down, but my point is I'm not overly impressed when he is coming out with a formula to value this thing, that he's trying to impress me based on the book value, when 2 seconds later I read that the book value is way below the fair market value. You might think that to begin with, but the truth is you didn't know it. So I just did a little calculation here to say, okay, don't be so impressed. The company is at $1,172,000. There's really another $835,000. Okay, so Sabina is saying she did this and didn't know what to do with it. Well, I can tell you what to do with it. What to do with this is when we talk about the top required, when we talk about the implications of selling, from a business perspective, this could play into your qualitative analysis when you're talking about devaluation. That's where you could have used this. You could talk about how basing part of the formula on book value is ridiculous, particularly in this situation where the book value is so much lower. Okay, everyone good? All right, continuing. Discontinuance, I think I know now, look at the title. Discontinuance of the office furniture division. Okay, let's go. Now, people, I think we all know, what accounting issue are we going to have to deal with here? Based on the title. Okay, good. So you know, okay, very good. A bunch of you are saying it, discontinued operation. Good. So people, look. He made the difficult decision, 2016, to discontinue the manufacturing. Okay, fine, because sales have started to decline. All right. So we're going to have an accounting issue, discontinued operation. I write that down. I know I have an accounting required. Good. Now, people, let me cheat for 2 seconds here, and let's talk about technical. What's the technical for discontinued operation? Number one, it has to relate to a component. What's a component? Separate cash flows, separate operations. Clearly distinguishable from the rest of the enterprise, number one. Under IFRS, this would be called a CGU. Number two, it's either have been disposed of or it has to meet the conditions for held for sale. Now, people, look. In this case, I'll see it in a minute. In this case, they ended up disposing it. Therefore, we did not get into a discussion of held for sale. Had we done that, we were nice. Had we done that, how many conditions are there for held for sale? Does anybody remember from the handbook? Okay, good. Closest one here, it's about 8 or 9. There's a ton of conditions. People, look, I'm saying this because it does not apply in this case. In this case, we made your life easy. They've already disposed of it. But if not, then I would be asking you, what are the conditions for held for sale? You have to know that when you talk discontinued operation. It's not relevant in this case. Fine, that's how it played out. And the third condition is one of these three. Now, I look at A and B very, very similar, and to be honest with you, I can't even separate them in a lot of cases. I'm not sure what the difference is between a major line of business or geographical area and then as part of a plan to dispose of a major line. I'm not sure. So usually the third condition is A and B, which ends up being the same thing. And C is very specific. Usually you don't have C, a subsidiary acquired exclusively with a view to resell it. And those are the three conditions you need. Now, by the way, can I ask you here, the handbook doesn't define it. What's a major line of business? How do I know if it's major? Somebody give me a frame of reference. Okay, excellent. A bunch of you are saying 10 to 20%. Excellent, very good. Okay, 20% of overall net income. Okay, so people, all of you I think are in the ballpark. That's really good. Basically, keep it low. Keep it low. Major, I don't need 40%. 10% of sales could be major. I'd have a very low bar. Okay, if you walked up to a regular company out there and you said, I'm taking away 10% of your sales, they'd probably say to you, that's a major amount, what are you doing? They would be so happy. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this now, okay, this little technical sidebar is because we're going to talk about discontinued operations, and it's a lot easier if you remember what the basic criteria are for discontinued operations. Now I flip back into the case. Okay, still in the first paragraph. This is not really accounting, but his gut feel told him it was good to do. Now, people, I don't know if you guys are noticing this, but I'm putting this down under business other implications. It's not that great. He's basing a decision on his gut feel. Okay? And this is very important. This division that he sold accounted for 20% of the sales. Now, people, that is an extremely important number when you talk about quants in this case. Because when you're figuring out the quants, you need to be backing out the 20%. They sold it. It's sitting in my sales. Back it out. Okay, so the fact also that they know it's 20% of sales, that says to me it's a major line of business, and it also says to me they can separate it out, distinguishable operationally. Okay? All right. The next, okay, to be, yeah, you're correct. I'm not sure if someone is saying we have 20% of sales and division was incurring a loss. Okay, fine. All right. Then we have the next paragraph, and I guess that's really giving me just some basic factual information on whether or not it's a component. Okay? So, people, you know what I do, and this is important. A lot of times I write down the point and I reference in. Look what I wrote down. I wrote down component. I go appendix 2, paragraph 2. I don't need to write down all the stuff. That whole paragraph is talking about discontinued operation. Do we have a component? I just want to remember it, so there's nothing wrong with cross-referencing. Then they tell me they've had a loss. Okay, fine, so I wrote that down. Okay. Oh, someone says income was not under 2%. Really? Under 2%? Oh, okay, Navina, I'm not sure. Someone is saying they have a difference in their case on something, so I'm not sure why that is, but okay. All right. Well, here's a harder question. I think most people should have identified the discontinued operation. What's the issue in the next paragraph at the bottom of the slide? What's the accounting issue? I just highlighted it, but I didn't say anything. Okay, some of you are close, but you're not getting it here. Some of you are saying that, yeah, no. Oh, okay, one sec. One person has it. Okay, good. Okay, people I think already has it. What they are doing here is you guys are, a lot of you guys are focusing on the contingent and stuff like that, and that's good. You're coming very close, okay? And Devance, that's also good, and Guru, correct. People, what they are doing here is incorrect. They are recognizing a contingent gain. This is an issue a lot of people miss. What is happening here? They're going to get paid $150,000 lower than the book value. They're going to lose money. But they've also agreed to pay them $150 a year from now, but only if it's contingent on whether or not the sales exceed $2 million. They think they will. I'm very happy. And because of that, they did not book a loss. So people, what did they do? They booked a contingent gain and they netted it against the loss. That's what they did. They booked a contingent gain. We can't accrue for contingent gains. That's violating the handbook. That's what they did. It's a harder issue because it doesn't say they had a contingent gain. It just says that they were going to have a loss, but they didn't. And the reason they didn't is because they netted out the contingent gain. That is incorrect. I definitely write that down. Contingent gain is recognized. I write down the appendix, whatever, the last paragraph, and that's it. That's a second accounting issue we need to discuss. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Now, Appendix 3, selling furniture through the internet. Okay. I guess I'm going to find this is going to be obviously under the whole internet and IMI. So I'm just looking to write down if I see any problems or issues. So the first bullet point, I don't know, that's kind of like I see some security concerns, whatever. So I wrote down security. I highlighted a few things with their server. Okay, their interface. And I didn't want to waste time writing it all down. I just put down third paragraph, third appendix, first paragraph. Now here's an interesting one. People, everyone see the second bullet point. They tell you that IMI is going to take care of all the marketing efforts. Okay. So first of all, I wrote two things down. Number one, I wrote down IMI does the marketing, their networking, whatever. I wrote that down as a point for IMI. But you know where else you could put this? Sorry, maybe I should actually, you know what, I'm sorry. Let me get to the next paragraph, sorry. Okay, it really ties in with the next paragraph. IMI is going to do the implementation quickly, and then when they finish, Furnco is going to terminate or whatever. At that time, Furnco is going to terminate all their accounting and sales staff. Okay. Let's do a look. And it's a 2-week implementation, which is very fast. I'm putting it down in two places. Number one, it's dealing with IMI. It's under the qualitative required. And number two, even though I don't know the number, look at the bottom on the right on the slide. I put down elimination of accounting, elimination of sales costs. People, that's a good habit to get into. That last required is basically numerical. I have to validate the claim of $1 million. But what if I see something that's not numerical and I don't know the number? Now, maybe they'll give it to me later, maybe they won't, I don't know. But somebody tells me they're going to eliminate accounting costs, they're going to eliminate sales, whatever it is they're going to eliminate, I want you guys to notice that. I would write it down. Maybe you'll be lucky and they'll give you a number after, maybe you won't. I don't know. Okay? I just think it's a good thing to write down. It's not so obvious because you're not dealing with a number. Okay, there's 3D technology, just finishing off this page. Okay, that's fine. I wrote that down. Maybe that's a benefit. And IMI is going to charge an annual fixed fee of $150 and take 10% off the sales. This is already something you can throw in. Okay, fine. So there's my one. I got 150,000 fixed fee. Good. That's an easy one. And 10% of sales. Okay, so that's an easy one to numerically compute. I flipped the page, and people, you know what? I'm not going to go line by line here. It's all stuff to do with IMI. I just want to highlight one or two important things. One of the very important numbers was the total sales. You don't want to deal with the total sales. What do you want to deal with here? I don't want to deal with the total sales. Thank you very much. Devine says, excellent. Okay. I want to deal with the residential portion. Why? Because you're getting rid of the other portion. So I'm just pointing this out. Our total sales here are $6,480,000. But I am really only concerned with the net amount because I've discontinued one of the operations. And how much was the discontinued operation? 20% of the sales. So when you get to the numbers, I want to deal with 80%, $6,480,000. That was important. It's a more important number. And back out to 20%. I cheat, bottom of the page. I didn't write all these numbers down. I wrote back the impact on sales and costs. It's all nicely together here. I'm not writing all of this down. Okay, any questions? All right, I get to the last page. More numbers, first paragraph, okay, fine. So I'm writing that down, shipping, manufacturing, utility, okay, fine. Then they tell me how many people they've employed. That's also important. And remember, I think they're going to help with this. They said elimination of sales costs. Okay, fine. And now they're telling me that, okay, FI employee, here's how many people we have. So that's good. I can get rid of a lot of these people. Okay. And then they tell me also what they spent on marketing. So people, you'll notice I'm filling in some of the points I wrote down before, now that I'm given numbers. So again, if you disagree with me, tell me, but I think all these points definitely deal with the whole numerical schedule of $1 million. Just to finish this off, and then we'll put it all together. His management style, well, it's not that great. Seat of the pants. He doesn't do a lot of analysis. He still is operating off gut feel. Okay, people, what are you getting an idea of when you read that? Where should I put that point? Shouldn't be hard. Okay. Okay, one sec. No, okay, I'm not getting the answer I'm looking for. Well, corporate governance. Okay, guys, some of you are saying corporate governance, but again, let's not talk in competencies. Okay, to me that point should go on. Maybe we're going to talk about the same thing here. To me, it should go. Okay, you'll see it. It should go up there under, and maybe that's what you guys mean when you say corporate governance. It's under the business points. It's not great. I don't like the way the guy's operating. Okay. All right. Now I've got a couple of questions here. I was confused by the marketing costs. So I'm saying where on that page it says 40% are geared toward office. Yeah. Okay. Fine. You have shipping, manufacturing, labor, and plant, which comprise 5%. Okay. Fine. You had to end up using in one of the numbers. I can't get into this now, but in one of the numbers, you have to end up using the 5%, 40%, and 15%. You can go and you can calculate the in figuring out whether or not they have $1 million. You can go and you can use those and you can calculate. I don't know, the manufacturing labor plant, the manufacturing labor. So you can use your 40%. Look at the solution again, or look at the whatchamacallit if you're confused with that, but all it is just another number you can use in figuring out whether or not they should have paid the, whether or not we can validate their claim for $1 million. Okay, other question. Okay, what are we talking about? Someone is asking if I ignore the 60%. What's 60%? That since IMI would pick it up. Okay, wait 1 second. I'm not even sure what you're asking here. Okay, whoever was asking that, Jonathan, you're asking that question. I'm not sure. Tell me what you're talking about. Okay. Oh, what's going on? Some people are saying, people do, which part? Some people are saying, I didn't have this in my case. I think I'm missing that part. I have from a couple of people. Which part do you not have in your case? Higgins management style? Okay, 1 sec. Sorry, people. I'm getting. Oh, some people are saying, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, but then the person said, never mind. Okay, the person's saying, okay, I'm good. Okay, fine. I just have shipping costs. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, people won't take a break. Let me look afterwards. I got to see what's happening here. They break down cost of goods sold, won't provide the shipping cost. Okay, I don't know. Maybe we change a couple of the numbers. Okay, so I'm sorry about this. I don't know why, but there seems to be a couple of versions of this out there. And some people are saying they only had a shipping cost and they didn't have the other ones. I'm not sure. I wonder if everybody had that. So it was the first one you mentioned. Okay. All right. So it's only a couple of things, but anyway, I'm not sure why we have those differences. All right, I'll check after. I don't think it's a big thing. Okay. So if you go back to Higgins management style, I put this under business. To me, this is, I guess, like you guys are saying, you know, I don't know, I don't care about the competency, you guys are saying governance, whatever, that's where I'm putting it under. All right, and similarly, look at the last paragraph. Let's just finish this off and put it all together. The last paragraph, I mean, this is not great. The guy's using his brother. What's the problem? He's not tendering contracts. He's not operating, obviously, in a formal manner, which could be a problem. Okay, that's the key point. All right. People, look. I just did, I don't know if it's a perfect outline, but I picked up a ton of stuff. We do not expect anyone's going to pick up that much. The truth is you don't need that much. So these points, even the people that are saying now there's a couple of differences in the case, it's really not a big deal. You only need to pick up a portion of the points. Also notice, what I'm writing down is very brief. I'm cross-referencing. You don't have to go and sit there and write a whole massive, essay in your outline. Okay? So, if you want to see an example, and this is what I'm going to be using, here's a sample outline. I'm going to show you the answer. We're going to go through it tonight. I'm going to show you the answer. This is still pretty good. I feel this is still pretty good. Doesn't have as many points, but it's dividing up the requirements very nicely. Impact on investors, accounting. It's got my 2 accounting issues, whether I work through IMI or through an intermediary. Oh, by the way, this is not perfect. In a perfect world, I think we should have actually separated A and B, selling over the internet and working through an intermediary. I did separate the required. In other words, I'm saying explicitly, I understand there's 2 required here, but then when I'm doing my points, I'm kind of putting it under both of them. If you really want to be 100% clean, maybe we should have the points under each one. Okay, I'm not doing that. And then I have some numbers here. I may not have as many numbers on the previous page, but whatever, I got some. All right. So people, this is a plan that I think is more realistic. That's what really the reason I'm showing it to. And I'm going to show you an answer based on this plan, not based on the perfect plan where I picked up everything. Any questions? Okay. Even in this plan, I just want to point out, I picked up on the 80%. I picked up on the 80%, which was very important, and that, you know, because we sold the division. Okay, so let's do a little time budget, and let's look at integration. Let's finish this off. These are the last things I'd be doing. I've now put my plan together. The case is 90 minutes. Our rule of thumb we always use is 25–30% is reading and planning. So, I don't know, what's that, 27 minutes, 25, 30 minutes out of 90, I'm reading and planning, and I'm writing for 60–65 minutes. Okay, let's do a time budget, and let's make sure we know what we're doing. This first thing about the impact on other investors, I guess that's strategy and governance. I said 5–10 minutes. It's not very big, it's not qualitative, depends how many points you pick up. I said 5–10 minutes. Now, people, accounting. Look at my notes. Before determining accounting, I got to figure out what's involved. Because maybe they're big, maybe they're small. I don't know. I can't just shove out a time budget. So people, look. I think, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, but I think the discontinued operation is pretty big. We have a lot of case facts. It's very material. We have alternatives. That's going to take longer. I think that's what I would call a major accounting issue. The contingency, on the other hand, assuming you identify that the contingent gain, that's really small. I'm going to show that to you in the sample response. That's extremely small. I don't have alternatives. It's flat out wrong. That's not going to take me long. The numbers, I don't think they're very hard. Why are we doing this? People, this is important. We're doing this because we want to recompute the price. That's the whole reason. Why else do I care about all these accounting deficiencies? I don't think the numbers are that difficult here. I don't think that's going to take me a long time. What's really going to take long, or a few extra minutes, is going to be the discontinued operation. So, and there, as you can see, the point about the numbers at the bottom. So, I said 15–20 minutes. People, one of the nice ways to do a time budget is compare issue to issue. I look at my first issue on the impact of other investors, I got 5–10 minutes. Compare that to the accounting is way more. Okay, the accounting is way more. So, I don't know, I thought 15–20 minutes. Everyone okay? Now, I think the third required here about IMI and the internet, I would probably put that in the middle. More than the impact on other investors. I'm not sure it's as big as accounting. It won't take me that long to write this up. I need a few points. I should go in both directions. Oops. Okay, so I don't know. How long for that? I said 10–15 minutes. Now, people, what does that leave you with? I guess it'll leave me, the remainder is 20–25 minutes. But you know what? There's a lot of numbers here. I don't think that's so crazy for me to validate the claim, whether it's $1 million. It might be 20–25 minutes. That's my 60–65 minutes. Does anyone have any questions on the time budget? The time budget, people, is important. You are going to be time constrained on the multis. It's life. They're doing this. They're admitting it. They put it into the PDF file that students, you know, are complaining about the time constraints. There's no way around that. Particularly on the multi, you'll be more time constrained than the column. Now, is everyone okay with the time budget? Oh, what's that? Shinwee's asking, what of the time to plan? No, Shinwee, the time to plan is 25, 30 minutes. That's 30% of your time or 25% of your time. The case is 90 minutes. So you're planning, I don't know, 25, 30%. So that's about 25 minutes, let's say, or 30 minutes. And that gives you 60, 65 minutes to write. Okay? Okay. The last thing that I do is I look at integration. I look at integration and see, are there any connections between the issues? People, this does not happen by itself. You cannot sit there and have integration envelop you and fall onto paper. Or as I like to say, this is not the process of osmosis. You have to look for integration. Some cases are better, some are worse. Some have more, some have little. I don't know. I saw a few points here. I wouldn't say this is the best case for integration. I saw a little bit here. And both these points are pretty good. Look at the first one. The impact of the new owner sitting on the board may have a decision that they want to make on the internet. That's a great point. You're doing a major thing in your business. At the same time, you're going and you're selling 28% of your business and putting 3 people on the board. Your autonomy is going to be limited. People said that before. And you're making a major decision. Also, this next one may be a little even less obvious, but you know, I'm considering whether to work through IMI. IMI is saying, I'm going to make $1 million extra. Would it not make sense to analyze their assumption when we're figuring out whether or not we should use IMI? In other words, if I validate their claim, if I really make $1 million, that looks good for IMI. But if I don't, why would I want to use someone who basically is inaccurate? They're telling me I can make $1 million extra. Where? That's my integration in required too. So people, there may be a couple of other points here. I don't think, again, that integration, that you always have to find integration, but I think you definitely have to always look for it. It may or may not be there in the multis. And the comp will always be some. All right. At this point, people, this is my 30 minutes. I'm now ready, or 25 minutes, whatever. I'm now ready to write my answer. Okay, people, any questions? That's my plan. Okay, let's get into the answer now. People, we did the plan. Now I'm going to show you a whole sample answer. Let's get into the issues. This will take us right to the break. All right. Obviously, we only have 2 accounting issues here. Discontinued and contingent. Okay, fine. There's quite a bit here for discontinued, not very much for the other one, for the contingent gain. Oh, Kyle has a good question. When you integrate issues, is that the best time to decide which issues to talk about first? Ah, excellent. Excellent question. I'm not mentioning here because it doesn't always play out, but a lot of times integration determines the order of attack of how you go after the issues. That's a very good point. I see that more in comps, but that's a very good point. Integration can help you determine which issues to talk about first, the order of the issues. Okay. Here's a sample response. Now, people, this is not a perfect answer. It's a good answer. This is supposed to be doable. That's why I'm showing you this. I'm not showing you the perfect solution, people. We never do that in these classes. You guys can read the perfect solution. You can't do it anyway. Just take notes of the perfect solution. I'm much more interested in a sample response that I can critique that is normal and doable by everybody. Okay. Check out the beginning. Very technical right up till here. In fact, we got nothing up until there. We need to determine whether the business discontinued operation. I shouldn't say nothing. Okay, we ID. We identified the issue. Okay, fine. Then what do? We copy from the handbook. In order to treat it as discontinued, the following criteria. That looks very familiar. I think I had that up before. There is nothing wrong with comping from the handbook as long as, somebody finish off my sentence. There is nothing wrong with comping from the handbook as long as, thank you very much, Jonathan, exactly, you tied the case facts. Excellent. So, does everybody agree up to here, I got very little. If this answer stopped over here, I'm not even sure we make reason. But it keeps going. And now people start to count the case facts. That's what a marker would be doing. A marker would be looking at these going, whoa, case fact. Whoa, another case fact. Look at this. At 20% of sales, there's one. It would appear that the first condition is fulfilled, separate major line. Excellent. But it's not so clear it's a component. Okay, fine. Keep going. This is excellent. It's not so clear. Fine. Arguments in favor, arguments against. Look at the case facts. 4 case facts. This is really good. And they're going in both directions, even better. It's run as a profit center, whatever, that's in favor of a discontinued. Some employees only work for the office division, that's good. But on the other hand, we have equipment that's shared. On the other hand, they don't have their own workforce. So not that I care, but our conclusion, we said it cannot be distinguished operationally from the rest of the company, so therefore it's not a discontinued operation. That's what we said. Now, people, look, it's hard for me to do a poll, okay, on a live online session, but I'm just going to tell you, when I take a poll in class, I sometimes get 50-50. And you know what? It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. You do not have to have the right conclusion. If your conclusion flows logically, that's fine. Some people said it was, some people said it wasn't. We said it wasn't, who cares? Does everybody understand the depth of analysis here? And by the way, this is 2 pages. This is a lot more than what I'm going to show you on the next slide when we got into the contingent gain. But we thought this was big. You got alternatives here. You had a lot of case facts to play with. Now, people, this is a small issue. Look at the difference. I'm literally saying 3 things here. Number 1, we're identifying the issue 103,000 contingent gain. Good. Number 2, go to the, I'm going to skip the second sentence for a second. Number 2, we're saying the handbook says not allowed. Good. That would be enough for competent. This paragraph goes beyond competent. I'll show you in a few minutes. It explains that the gain is a contingent gain because, I don't know, it's happening down the road and you don't know if you're going to meet the threshold. That is excellent. A lot of people will not have the second sentence. You don't need it, but it's still good. Now, one sec. I have a question here. Is there a way to shorten the AO1 answer and get C only? Yeah, there is. Well, one sec. We're going to talk about, and when you say shorten it, I can shorten it a little bit. I'm not sure why you want to shorten it so much. I'm spending 15, 20 minutes in my accounting. This is all part of my 15, 20 minutes. I don't have to shorten it. Now, the truth is, you're going to see in a few minutes, that was actually competent with distinction. Okay, another question. If we conclude not discontinued, then we need to tie back to the price of the share, which is calculated on income. Yes. People, why do you have to do that? Happens all the time. You make a conclusion, and then something is based on that conclusion. I make a different conclusion. People say, why do I have to talk about the other thing? It's not based on this conclusion. People, what's the answer? This is a very important point. The answer is, they may not listen to you. In real life, just because you tell your client to do X, they don't always do X, they could do Y. That's a big part of it in real life. Also, from an exam writing standpoint, you've taken yourself totally off the marking guide. You're totally off the marking guide if you are not going to deal with something and there's information just because you're choosing a different recommendation. Not a good strategy. So the answer is that you have to deal with something and that you have to come to a conclusion. And if something else is not going to really follow your conclusion, you have a one-liner. You just basically say, but okay, I'm going to discuss it anyway because I have a formula, something like that, and they could disagree with me. This happens in a lot of cases, particularly comps. Okay, I have a question here. One sec. I did not call the contingent gain, but I discussed they cannot record this amount based on a future event. Recognize the loss. That's not, look at it. I'd probably give that to. I'd probably give that to, even if you didn't say the word contingent gain. If you identified that it was wrong and they should record the loss, I probably would give it to. Okay, so wait, is that the same person asking? One sec. Yeah, someone else is asking, what if I was not able? People, okay, 1 second. Well, you guys are ahead of me. Okay, when you're asking me, what if I was not able to identify the contingent gain? I haven't even showed you the marking guide yet. So wait 1 second. We haven't seen it, and you'll see what's going to happen in the marking guide. Okay. I've got a few questions here. Just 1 second. Just trying to whatever. Oh, Sabine says, oh, it's the same version. Okay, good. Sorry. Okay, good. Oh, that makes me happier. Okay, someone is saying it is the same version. Okay, fine. All right. So, by the way, people, obviously, my comments are in bold here. I'm just showing you in the sample response, look how short it is here for contingent gain. Look how short this is compared to the discontinued. Why? The discontinued had alternatives. There were way more case facts. It had like 2 or 3 paragraphs. The contingent gain, okay, it was harder to identify, but that's not the reason it's shorter. It's shorter because it was 1 paragraph. There's hardly any case facts. What else can you say about this contingent gain? No one's ever been able to give me a 4th point. Seriously, I got 3 points here. I don't think you can say anything. Okay, now, people, this you're going to see a number of times in a number of the sessions. These are what we call our ancillary points. These are what you do when you're doing numbers. This will help you. You can blow the numbers more by doing stuff like this. Not that I want you to do that, but they count us. And I want to make the argument, 4 out of 5 always come up. Number 1, always. When do you not give me a purpose for an exhibit? Number 2, when do you have no assumptions? Number 3, when do you have no conclusion? These are always. And number 5, when do you not make a recommendation? The only one that sometimes you don't have to do is analyzing or interpreting the results. Sometimes you don't have to do that. So, people, we show this slide every time we show numbers. So I want you guys to do this when you do numbers. Okay. And keep going. I'm going to show you the evaluation guide in a few minutes. All right. Some really nice stuff on this page. First of all, I like the title. Recalculates purchase price. Titles are good. Second of all, point form is good. Third of all, in Appendix 1, excellent. You're tying into the appendix. Don't take that for granted. Markers love this. Okay? Based on the appendix, the purchase price is significantly lower. Good. That's a conclusion. Excellent. Now, I have a feeling most people did not do this third point. You don't have to answer this, but how many people at some point in their answer discuss the fact that this formula is a made-up formula. What the heck is 3 times whatever income times 28%? What is all that? That is all made up. I'm not saying I wouldn't use it. I'm going to use it because I'm not going to make up my own formula. But people, you guys know when it comes to valuation of a business, there's different methods. There's a million different methods you could use. There's an income approach. There's an asset approach. There's different types of income approaches. Capitalized earnings, capitalized cash flows, discounted cash flows, discounted earnings. Then there's different asset approaches. Net book value, adjusted book value, liquidation value. So the point is, they have done this in other cases. People, this is our case. On real UFI cases or CFE cases, they have done this. They throw in some crazy formula. Half the country assumes it's like, I don't know, you know, it's a beautiful formula, and they don't even think to challenge it. And I'm saying the whole thing seems arbitrary here. I don't know if the formula makes any sense. Where'd they get that from? 3 times. And that's where, by the way, that is where you can put in that book value point. Now, someone is asking, what if it's determined this was discontinued operation? You concluded you would go with their valuation. Nothing. So that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Look at, something is missing here. Where's my constructive recommendation? Now, people, I admit this was harder, and you're going to see that, and we didn't really penalize. You're going to see in a minute. We did not really penalize the answer for this. It's a hard constructive recommendation. I think a lot of people would have ended up the discussion here. And, you know, I don't know if you guys did that or not. You could have given me a constructive recommendation, basically saying, I'd recommend, I don't know, sell or not sell the company, but base the thing on a proper valuation. So you could have used their numbers, used the formula, but basically said, I don't know where this is coming from. You really should do a proper valuation. Nothing wrong with that. Very constructive recommendation. Everyone okay? Here are my numbers. This is all part of the sample response. I've got income. I've got my couple of adjustments. I multiplied by the formula. That was critical. That's the whole reason you're doing this, is to readjust based on that formula. This is not the perfect, people. This is less involved. It flows from my accounting. It's good. Okay. So back to this, 1 second, in Appendix 1, that's the same page. I know that. Okay, I've already mentioned this. Okay, fine. Excellent discussion. Okay, fine. All right. Now I'll answer a couple of your questions when you were saying, like, okay, how did this play out? Okay. So people, look what we did. We had assessment opportunity number 1, discontinued operation only. They are doing this left and right. They are putting separate accounting issues into separate assessment opportunities. That discussion I showed you was so good, it was actually competent with distinction. You can't really tell what's competent with distinction here, an in-depth discussion. So let me show you specifically right here. People, the difference between competent and competent with distinction, and I don't really need competent with distinction, in this case, was discussing the alternatives. Either way, you have to have a reasonable discussion. Either way, I need the technical points, and you tie back to case facts. But if you also discussed alternatives and went both directions, we gave you competent with distinction. It's a good habit to get into. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not going for competent with distinction. I don't care about competent with distinction. It does not help in the passing profile. I don't care. That was a separate assessment opportunity. And then we put the contingent gain in a separate assessment opportunity. And amazingly, that was also competent with distinction. The reason that was competent with distinction was because sorry, what is it here? Sorry, the reason it's competent with distinction, just lost my train of thought, is if you explained why it was a contingent gain, that was really above competent. To get competent, I simply needed you to recognize, identify the issue, it's a contingent gain, and tell me the handbook does not allow. That was what I needed for competent. 1B was competent. But if you went one step further and actually said to me, why is it contingent? Because it's based on, okay, that's what I mean by strong support from case facts. It's a contingent gain. It's based on, I don't know, the future, those future sales. That was really good. We thought that was competent with distinction. Okay, everyone good. So people, the answer to the question, I think I had this from a couple of people. What if I did discuss a contingent gain issue? Okay, you missed one, assessment opportunity. That's the answer. You would get not addressed in assessment opportunity number 2. We're discussing the error and not recording the loss, the RC. Oh, I think I just answered that, right? That's what you're saying, okay. Okay. All right. Now, where are my numbers? Oh, look at this. We had a third assessment opportunity, and this is where we put the numbers. And what I showed you was competent, which is fine. At least one adjustment, recompute the purchase price, recognize the price is too low, and a reasonably accurate calculation. 3 assessment opportunities. Now, people, again, I always want to point out, don't play the game of trying to guess assessment opportunities. That is not how we do these questions. I'm showing you at the end what the assessment opportunities are. Absolutely, we're marking it. But do not play the game of trying to figure this out. I didn't do that. I just walked through the whole case with you. I want you to play the game of addressing the issues, addressing the required. That's the game. Not trying to figure out how we, the markers, are putting it into different assessment opportunities. That is a losing battle. You are not going to know that. You may guess it, but I don't care. Okay? I am not doing a case like that. Question. If you missed the discontinued operation assessment opportunity, but made a calculation the plan would be revalued, will increase the book value of the company, oh, how will we be assessed in AL number 3? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. You know what? You might be able to get, okay, you might be able to get region competent, okay, or even competent if you did that. In other words, I guess what you're really asking me is, would we count that? The question that's being asked is, if I missed the discontinued operation, and I'm assuming you missed the contingent gain. So if you missed both accounting issues, but you did have one adjustment, which was based on the book value, okay. Oh, one sec. If you got, okay, one second. Let me step back. People, if you missed both accounting issues, I don't think you can get region competent. Because I'm not sure how you're going to have any adjustments. And to get region competent, I need at least one adjustment. If you got the contingent gain and not the discontinued operation, you could have got competent. You could have got competent here. Yeah. That's unusual, by the way. I'm not even sure I ever marked a paper where someone did that. That's obviously unusual. The discontinued operation was way more obvious than the contingent gain, and it was a much bigger issue. That's rare. I don't know if Chris, if you did that, but I'm just saying that's very unusual. Okay, I've not marked any papers where that's happened. Okay. Any other questions? All right. We have a conclusion. Fine. Calculation is accurate. Okay. Let's look at the other issues, people. We'll break very shortly. Let me just watch some calls. Give me a few more minutes. We'll break. Okay, let's talk about this one. Let's talk about this. This is it. And you know what? It's pretty good. It's concise. Look at these points. Every one is good. Although new shareholders will leave the day-to-day operations, 3 of them will sit on the board, and the overall way the company is run. I already like the first point. The first point is recognizing you're going to have different people on the board. Excellent. One area that may demand change. Beautiful. Your brother. They're not going to be too happy you're not tendering the work. Excellent. They may also, this is another good point, they may also not agree with selling over the internet. Excellent point. And look at that second sentence. This is also very good. This is significant because you believe selling over the internet. Beautiful, tying to the case facts. Every one of these is good. As per the above, this is a little repetitive. Okay, fine. The additional shareholders will impact the running of the business, limit your flexibility. But here's a point we didn't mention. But having a banker, accountant, a lawyer will be beneficial. Excellent. But you still have to be comfortable with this, giving up some autonomy. That's a great conclusion. Now, people, look. I got way more points than this when I did the plan. You didn't need it. I'm not saying, obviously, to skip stuff. I'm just trying to tell you, you do not need everything to get confident. I mean, just look at my comments down here. I don't have to read out the whole paragraph. You guys can see it. It's really good. This is a really good analysis. So no one should be too surprised when I show you this was obviously confident. And you didn't need everything. In fact, if you really want to look at this closely, to get confident, you needed both of these points, but it's better than it looks, because the first point has an or. You have to recognize the impact of outside investors, or that the poor internal controls, the fact that Higgins is doing things through gut feel. That's one of two. The second point is one of three. Either one area the board get involved with, or the need for periodic information, or the positive aspect of having people on the board. We try to give you different ways to get confident. That's not really you have to do 2 of the 2 things. That's like you have to do 1 of the 2 and 1 of the 3. And if you want a good example, people, if you don't believe me, check out this next slide. Look at all the missed exits. Now, by the way, people, just a quick aside here. Okay, just a quick aside. I want to make sure everyone understands this. When you get your papers back, I always tell the markers they don't have to fill in the X's. If they want, they can fill in the X's. If they don't fill in the X's, they should be referencing from your answer what you got here. So, for example, if I don't know, if I said something in point 3, they should say AO6-3. Because I'd rather the markers give you good comments. Some markers like to fill out the X's. For teaching purposes, I'm showing you the X's. Some markers like to fill out the X's, some don't. I'd want good comments as long as they reference in. I don't care if they fill out the X's. Don't think that marker didn't mark it. If you get it back and you see blanks, decide yes and no. Doesn't matter. As long as they have good comments and they tell you how you did on the assessment opportunity, that's fine. All right, any questions? Everyone good? Now, let's do this one. So I got to tell you one thing about this I don't like. I'll tell you now it's going to be confident. But I have to be consistent. I really think the analysis I'm going to show you in a second, I don't love the fact they grouped it. It's recognized as a separate issue, A and B. But the answer kind of mixes back and forth. Now, if you get enough points, like this answer did, you can still get the confident. I just think it's more dangerous. So I'm just telling you flat out, my own bias, okay, I think this could have been written a little better. The points are excellent, and that's why I ended up getting confident. But the organization could have been a little cleaner. I actually think you should have had a title, should we sell over the internet? Another title, should we work through IMI? That's how really this thing, I think, should have been set up based on the requires. That's the habit to get into. All right, so before I show you the answer, a couple of things. First of all, I've already mentioned this. It was critical to realize we have two separate requires. That should have been evident. And by the way, if you didn't believe me, here it is right from the case. We're considering selling furniture, hello required number one. We're considering doing something with IMI, hello required number two. Okay, one more important point. If they're giving me these two alternatives, would it not make sense to maybe throw in a third alternative? Like maybe work through the internet and not through IMI? We rewarded you for that. That's not crazy. If somebody's already talked about a couple of alternatives, you can throw in a third alternative. Now, nobody ever does this, and I'm not expecting it, I'm not going to show it to you, but you could actually have quantified without working through IMI. You could have actually quantified that. Nobody does that, and that's fine. Okay, you don't really need to do that for competent or whatever, that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying we actually have numbers in here, you could have done it. All right. In order to get, I'll show it to you in a second, in order to, I don't know, to come up with a good answer, you flesh out the points on their outline, you use common sense. There's a little bit of integration here. Don't point out only problems, point out and give constructive advice. Okay, so people look. Let me show you the evaluation guide first, then I'll show you the answer. I may have thought this is really two assessment opportunities. You realize that we could have put this in two assessment opportunities, but we didn't. We put it in one. That's what I keep saying to you. I don't want you to guess. You have to do both, obviously. You have to have an in-depth discussion of selling furniture over the internet. And then you have to also talk about, should I work with IMI? And then one of these three things, maybe give me another alternative. Maybe don't use IMI, but just go over the internet. That would have been fine. Okay. So people look at the answer and you'll see what I mean. Again, I find it a little bit not the greatest organization, but the points are excellent. Okay. It appears selling over the internet is good. Fine. Nothing in the beginning. This is a good point. I didn't say this. Generating an automatic 50% increase in sales, they're saying seems very appealing. How do we know it's valid? How'd they come up with this amount? Excellent. I guess that's a point with IMI. That's a good point. But then they flip it to an internet point. Customers may not want to purchase furniture online. That has nothing to do with IMI. Maybe they want to see the products first. That's a risk. It needs to be considered. It's a common sense point. Excellent. Further to the above, now we flip back into IMI. And by the way, I wrote this one down, the clothing industry. Remember I wrote down clothing industry? That's not their business. That may not translate. Okay, excellent. Well, it's great they'll save you in accounting. We're still with IMI. And this basically, people, this is an important point. I don't know if anybody did this. Did anybody use WIR? You know, the thing with WIR, everybody uses it when it comes to internal controls, and that's good, and I have no problem with that. But you know what? It's sometimes a really good technique to use when you just want to get depth. Look at this paragraph. It's going to save you in accounting and IT. I thought about the transmitting the orders. It's too infrequent. That's the problem. I don't know. People are going to wait weeks. Here comes the implication. It's not a good business practice. I recommend you make changes to daily transmission. People, that is an excellent habit to get into. Use WIR when you're explaining something. That gives you depth. They love stuff like that. That is a very good habit. And lastly, I recommend you do further research. Stop. If the sentence ends here, that's a cop-out. You will not get credit. Further research on what? That's what the marketer is thinking. But keep going. This is good. On the merits of selling, of internet selling and IMI. And there's no reason to limit yourself with this one company. People, that's an excellent conclusion. Now, we said 10 to 15 minutes. Look at what I have here. It's probably 15 minutes. There's a lot written. 2 slides. It's pretty good. Definitely going to be confident. We had an in-depth discussion. We had a good few points on the internet selling, yes or no. We had a couple of points for IMI, and we recognized another option. Maybe we could just use another intermediary. That's what you have to do. There it is. I showed you at the beginning. Now I'm showing it to you where it's competent. Okay, any questions? Everyone okay? And by the way, once again, you do not see X's in every point. Look at number 3. I see a few X's and I see lots of blanks. You do not have to get everything, people, to get confident. That's my point. Think of our plan, our perfect plan. We didn't get everything here in the sample response. Last one. A couple more minutes, people, will take a break. All right, so I have to do a calculation. I said 20 minutes on this. This is a big one. There's many facts provided. No, I do not have to hit every last number. Obviously, I try and go after things that are large, things that affect gross margin, things that are more major, and even easy items. The one thing I don't want to do is start chasing after a number that isn't even big, and it's going to take you a long time to calculate it. I don't need that. Okay. I've already mentioned, I'm going quickly here because I already mentioned some of these points. The big thing is, or a big thing to get competent, we want to do a break out to 20%. You have to break out to 20%. They're selling that division. That's not relevant. And of course, remember all these ancillary points. Okay, fine, I've already showed it to you. Okay. Look at these solutions. Look at these sample response. It's pretty good. For Appendix 2, I like it already. They're referencing it in. The profit is $1,075,000, so you know what? It is over $1 million. Slightly above $1 million. The analysis is based on the residential furniture figures only. Excellent. Okay, so this is good. Now, people, look at you can read my whole point here, but the basic gist of this, you did not have to come up with above or below. I don't really care. You still could get confident, okay? Everybody makes mistakes in the numbers. Now, people, this is a good exhibit. What do I like about this exhibit? Starting at the top, follow the arrows. Nice purpose. Calculate expected profit increase if using IMI. I'm a little picky here. I actually criticize the purpose and say they should have tied it into $1 million. If you want to be as specific as possible, it's still pretty good. Don't get me wrong. I still give the person credit for it. But you're not just doing it to calculate the profits. Why are you doing it? I want to see if the $1 million is accurate. I do not get every last adjustment. There's no way this is every last adjustment. I only consider the residential furniture. Excellent. That was important. I have a nice conclusion. That's a very good conclusion. Profit increases over $1 million. Beautiful. I need that for confidence. Assumptions are good. The assumptions are good. Now, people, do you guys notice I have an assumption for every single number except for one? Why do I not have an assumption for the 150,000 IMI fixed fee? Why is there no assumption? Yep, Jonathan, thank you, excellent. Case fact, Priyanka, exactly the same. Beautiful, it's given. Yep. That's how you should be thinking. That's not a small question. I'm serious. That is how you should be thinking for numbers. You know when I don't need an assumption? You know when I don't need a note? When you pull the number directly out of the case. Then the marker knows where it is. You don't have to tell the marker where the 150 is. They know the case. Everything else, I got a note. If you think like that, you'll have excellent numbers. Okay, so this is pretty good. All right. Want to see reaching competent? Check this out. No purpose, no notes, got a few numbers. I messed up the residential, I included total sales. That was messed up. Got a few of these that came out of the case, okay, fine. No assumptions. No conclusion. People with all of the faults, this would be RC. It's an attempt, I got a few numbers. Okay, so what we did here, what the heck just happened? Sorry, people. What we did here is if you messed up and you treated everything based on 100% of sales, you still could get reaching, but not competent. You have to, I think it's fair, you have to break out the division they were selling. Other than that, you could have made errors, not have all the adjustments, just had a few adjustments with the conclusion, and you'd be okay, and you could get competent. Obviously, what I showed you was competent. Okay, but you have to base it on the residential figures. Any questions? And once again, people, look how many things I'm missing. Look at point number 2. What did I get here? I missed, I got 2 out of 6. 2 out of 6 bullet points. That's it. Okay. People, look. Let me wrap this up. That's the last slide. What I tried to show you is, it took longer because I walked through the whole case. I tried to show you how, look at the requireds, how we put down all those points under the requireds. We used a lot of them in our answer. We had a time budget, we stick to our time budget, we address the issues, and then I just want to show you how it plays out in the evaluation guide. There should not be any major surprises in the assessment opportunities. You don't know exactly how they're going to play out. I guess that would be a bit of a surprise, but we're not going to have major surprises in the requireds, in the issues, and how it leads into the assessment opportunities. All right, and I showed you a sample response that was competent or competent with distinction, not that I need it all the way through. Now, question. I concluded, but did not, oh, what's that? I concluded, sorry, in the Word document, but did not provide a conclusion in Excel. Okay, very good question. Makes no difference. You can conclude in Word, in Excel, they will give it to you either way. I don't care. Personally, I like concluding in Excel. Makes no difference. Another question. One of the case requirements was advice on accounting and reporting of the sale of the shares to the consortium. Are we expected to provide no way. The truth is, the odd case nowadays, they never used to do this, does ask for a journal entry, but no, you were not asked for journal entries. They wanted advice on the accounting on the sale of the shares to the consortium. What they meant was plugging it into the formula. If there's accounting adjustments, how is that going to change it? That's what they meant. No, nothing to do, nothing with journal entries here. Okay. Any questions before we take our break? Any other questions? You're welcome. All right, people, let's take a 10-minute break. I've got 8:38, let's go to 8:48. Okay, then we'll do GSI. It takes me less time to go through GSI, but let's start at 8:48, okay? And then we'll go through GSI, okay? And I'll do a new recording. That concludes the recording for Furnco.